now. All right, Andrew, what's this meeting about? Or this training about?
When I swallow and it goes down the wrong tube. You told me I was supposed to be very professional on this one, so I'm doing the best I can.
Awesome. Here's the cheat sheet. So today is our training, recorded training for field trip. Exciting stuff.
Yep, pack your brown paper bag lunch.
Yeah, so this typically is done by the project manager, and it happens for the most part prior to the production packet meeting. It gives the project manager an opportunity to visit the site, look at the conditions, and then bring any areas of concern or any additional notes that the team will need to know to the production packet meeting while we're preparing for the actual job start. Okay. So starting from the top, just pretty straightforward. You fill in the blanks, the project name, who the project manager is, and the date. This is to state who did it and when it was completed by. So that should be filled out completely at the top. And then it just says that the PM thoroughly envisions building the project. So just think about how you would build this project from start to finish. And when you walk the site, keep that in mind so that you can walk through and try to figure out any areas that might prohibit the team from being able to build the project. So if there's any things that you're concerned about, like I don't quite know how this will fit or how this will work, things like logistics of where the materials are going to go, dumpsters, all kinds of site protection, things like that should be taken into consideration when the project manager does the field trip. What will he need for the field trip? So documents, he's going to need a set of construction drawings. Ideally, you want to have those ready by the field trip so that he has them on site to compare to what he's looking at. And then we also want to have a copy of the construction agreement. This is to verify scope. If there's anything that he's unclear about, he can refer to that to see if it's getting done or not. Materials wise, we want that to be when the project manager puts a lockbox on site and a job sign on site. He should have a dumpster protection with him. He should have spray paint to mark any areas that we need to be marked, and then a tape measure to verify measurements.
Yes, so the paint that can be used, obviously it needs to be pre-mapped out with the client so they know. But sometimes when we're laying out a site and you want your different materials to be dropped in a certain location, trusses here, some sort of lumber package here, you want plywood here, you could draw that right onto the lawn. So when they drop it off from the material supplier, they know exactly where to put it. Don's John, where to put that.
Yeah, super helpful. One of the projects we did in the past that I can think of, the client was going to remove some tree roots, but didn't want to remove all of them. So he had a spray paint where we thought how far we thought the addition was going to come out, so he knew what tree roots to take out. So that was super helpful to the client. We did that with spray paint. So cool. There's a section for notes here that if there's anything specific that you notice or need to have, you can put that in the note section. All right. Next section is to locate certain things on the outside. The way that I would do it is I would start outside and work my way inside the house. So on the exterior, you want to locate any overhead power lines. Just notate where it's existing. Any additional notes that you have can go there. Exterior utilities, hose bib is a huge one that sometimes we forget. I think it's really important because if you're, especially when you're building an addition, if the hose bib is on an exterior wall and when you build that addition, it's now going to be inside, you want to make sure you have a plan for that. So where it's located would be important to document, and any additional notes.
It's also important to know if we go ahead and do any foundation work and we need water for concrete.
Yes, very true. So that would be the axis. Receptacles, note if they're GFCI protected. Dumpster, the dumpster would really be where to like figure out where the best location to put the dumpster would be if we're getting one. And then you have your spray paint, so you can mark that location, make sure it's ready for job start. If we are using a porta-john, it'd be the same thing. Just map out the best location where that should go, where it should be delivered, where materials can be stored, and then the parking conditions, because we'll have trades coming in, we'll have our in-house workers with our trucks. Where can we park? That would be important to know.
Yeah, notice that it's a cul-de-sac or a pipe stem or a highly traveled road, something.
Absolutely. All right, and then we move to the inside. We want to find the electrical panel, the water shut off, the gas shut off, the air return, because we want to make sure that we put in temp filters. So we want to make sure we know where that is. And if there's any furniture or breakables that need to be moved, we want to locate them and make notes about those as well.
Moving on the inside, in our system, generally the project manager would be on site at the trade walk, which would be a couple months prior to project start. So this would be round 2 of being on the site.
Yes.
In the first go round, you're more looking at the buildability of the project, assessing how we're actually going to build the project, and not as much of the kind of overall site nitty gritty, which is what we're trying to accomplish here today.
Absolutely correct. Okay. Next thing we want to do is we want to assess existing conditions and make a note of those things. This is super helpful for like when we do punch out. There are times when we can't determine who did what. Did we damage stuff? Did our trades damage stuff? Was it damaged prior to us? Are we marrying it? So it's important to make a note of the condition of these items before we ever start the work. So the first thing would be landscaping and the lawn, just to make sure that the work we're doing doesn't hurt the landscape and the lawn badly, or if there's a way to protect it, that would be a good time to assess. You can just circle the condition of it, put additional notes for what needs to be done to protect it there. I would take a look at the driveway also. On the exterior of the building, the wall finish inside, floors, windows and doors, trim, and main shutoff valve would be things to check the conditions for.
Yeah, for the lawn, landscaping, vegetation, is it enough that we want to put some caution tape to make sure that we're staying within a narrow path, whether it's like along the side of a house to get to a back addition, or what the client has some sort of elaborate landscaping plan?
That's a good point. And then you would just make a note in the note section of what needs to be done for that. Okay.
Some of these notes, so then the next subsequent meeting that you'd have with the client is going to be the pre-construction meeting. So a lot of these notes that would be taken, then these conversations could be had before we actually start the project. So going back to that example with the vegetation is, so our path to the rear is going to be through here, and I kind of have it marked outside. Is this something that you want us to go above and beyond to do X, Y, and Z? Because there might be some sort of specialty item that's there that they don't want us to walk over certain roots of some trees or some vegetations or something like that, where we have to kind of change the path. Is this something that we want to go even more above and beyond and actually mark off trees and things like that, which potentially could be an additional work order to kind of monitor that? But this is, either way, it's healthy conversation.
Absolutely. Agree. All right. And then last but not least, we're going to do another verification of measurements. These mostly apply to long lead items. And we do the initial verification at trade walk. This is your second opportunity to do a verification in case there's been changes, or just to confirm what you already looked at trade walk. And what you would do is you'd use the checklists that apply for each of these items, trusses, windows and doors, cabinetry, just verify those measurements and then check them off as verified, sign that you verified them and put any additional notes on here that the PD or the team that's working on the project will need to know. We'll go on there.
Since we're mid-COVID doing this video, we're in the middle of very screwy lead times. They change on us all the time. So our main 4 times that we measure and verify products would be during trade walk, during the field trip, which is this meeting, right at project start. So by the time we have a crew come in, then maybe we have a lead carpenter on site that might be doing some of these verifications. But in theory, that would be a couple weeks after this walkthrough, or later in the job, because it might be a pretty big job, and then you have time to do the initial stages of the job before you measure and order that long lead time items. So this would be the second out of the 4 different times that we could verify.
Yep, absolutely.
Just a memory jogger.
Very, very true. And then last but not least, there is a note section that's just for, like Andrew said, this checklist is really just a memory jogger. You can't really get all of the information just off of the checklist. So there's an additional spot here for additional notes. Anything at all that you think would be absolutely important for the team to know about the project needs to go here. A plan for site prep. If there's certain areas that the clients are like, absolutely no access through here, this should be your access. What's the plan to make sure that we're site prepping properly, marking off areas that we shouldn't use, any areas of concern that maybe you need more clarity on, any detailed notes at all should go in this section so that you don't leave any items forgotten and can be discussed further with the project developer or designer, whoever it applies to as needed. Okay, so it's a 2-pager and it's going to be an evolving document. So this is going to be our start. Of course, as we use it and we find things more useful or less useful, we'll continue to update the document. What we want the PMs to do is complete it, review it with the PDs after it's completed, and then the completed form should be uploaded into the Slack channel and the director of production tagged to the document so that we have it, we can all see it, we can reference it as needed. Yeah. Andrew, anything you want to add?
No, then we're ready to build a project. Let's get it going.
Now we're ready to build our project.
Let's do it.
Which is super awesome. There will be a follow-up email after this training video that shows you where this video is stored and where to access this form. If you have any questions, please respond to that email. Let us know what you need and we'll get back to you, or feedback would be appreciated. All right, that's it.
Thank you.
Thanks. And